Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to talk about long division and the factor and remainder theorems. I do want to start with long division. It is the backbone of everything we're going to do with the factor and remainder theorems. So I do want to explore that. All right, so let's just get right into it. Long division of polynomials. The rules follow the same rules that if you were doing long division with numbers. So I do want to jump right in. All right, so if I had 7 divided by 88, right, I would say, how many times does 7 go into 8, right, that first 8, and it would be 1 time. So I'd put a 1 up here. Then I would multiply the 1 times 7 to get 7, and then subtract and get 1, and then bring down the other 8. Then I would take 7 and say, how many times does it go into 18? And I would say that would be 2 times. 2 times 7 is 14, and I'm left with a 4. And I could say 12 remainder 4, or I could say 12 and 4/7 as my complete answer. So I do want to jump right into the concept with an example. So if I had x to the 4th plus x squared plus 1 divided by x plus 1, we're going to set it up very similar to the way I just set up the last problem. I have the x plus 1 on the outside of my division symbol, and on the inside I have x to the 4th. Now I'm going to insert 0x cubed, all right? And the reason I'm going to do that, it doesn't change what we have here, but it will allow my columns to line up right. And sometimes just having the columns line up right is really going to help you when you do this. So then plus x squared plus 0x. Again, I'm getting all the values of x in there, plus 1. So I have all the powers of x in descending order. And I think this is going to make things a lot easier. Now, we're going to do a little bit of scratch work, and then we're going to add it to our problem. So the first thing I want to take a look at is I want to take a look at this x and say, how many times does it go into x to the 4th? Now, if you're unsure about how many times it does, you can do x to the 4th divided by x and wind up with x cubed. And that's how many times it goes in. So you could say this would be x cubed. And then what I want to do is this. I want to take x cubed and multiply it times x plus 1. And what do we get? We get x to the 4th plus x cubed. All right, now I'm going to take this away because I just need the space. All right. Now this is a single term, very much like this is a single term. However, this is split up because they're, right? So we have to put a parentheses around it to make sure that we are distributing our negative, and we're going to subtract. So I got x to the 4th minus x to the 4th is 0, and 0x to the 3rd minus x to the 3rd is negative x to the 3rd power. All right. So, come on. I don't know what's going on. All right. So, all right, now we're going to take a look at this. And the question is, I'm going to change this color a little bit. How many times does x go into negative x cubed? So again, if you need to do a little bit of scratch work to figure it out, you can say negative x cubed and divide it by x. And wind up with negative x squared. All right. So I'm going to say that this would be negative x squared. And I try to keep my column straight. I probably could have put this over the x cubed. All right. And now, again, we're going to do the same thing. I've got negative x squared divided by x plus 1. All right, so when I multiply that, I'd say negative x squared times x is negative x cubed, and negative x squared times 1 is negative x squared. Now, of course, and I probably could have done this earlier, I need to bring down the plus x squared. Now again, I'm going to put a parentheses around it and a subtraction symbol. So I say negative x cubed minus negative x cubed winds up being 0. And x squared minus negative x squared actually winds up being 2x squared. This is why it's important to make sure that that negative is distributed. If you don't, you will get a number. It'll just be a wrong number. All right, so just be careful about that. And now again, I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. I'm going to bring down the 0x. Now I have to repeat again. I have to say how many times does x go into 2x squared. So I can put the 2x squared over here and divide it by x. And I wind up with 2x. So I'm going to say positive 2x. And now again, I'm going to multiply. So 2x times x is 2x squared, and 2x times 1 is just positive 2x. Now I'm going to parentheses around it and subtract. 2x squared minus 2x squared is 0, and 0 minus negative 2x is negative 2x. And again, I'm going to bring down the, I'll lift this up a little bit, plus 1. All right, now this is probably the last time we're going to do it. So again, I have negative 2x, and I divide that by x to say negative 2. So negative 2 goes up here, so negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Parentheses around it and subtract. Negative 2x minus negative 2x is 0. 1 minus negative 2 is 3. Now, with numbers, you could go and start getting decimals. Now that we are dealing with polynomials, you stop at your remainder. So what we can do is, I'm going to erase this because I'd like a little bit of room. We put the plus 3 over x plus 1. And this is your quotient. And this is your remainder. All right, this is very important to practice. This will come up quite a lot, and it'll be quite helpful in Calc 1 and 2. So let's try one more. All right, this time I'm going to make it a little bit different. I'm going to start it out in a slightly different way. There's my example. I have 15y cubed minus 30y plus 7 minus 19y squared over 3y squared minus 2 minus, not 15, just 5y. Now, what's different about this is that I'm starting the problem out as a stacked fraction. So you read this, right, from top to bottom, and this middle here is divided by. So 15y cubed minus 30y plus 7 minus 19y squared divided by 3y squared minus 2 minus 5y. Now, we have to put this in the same format we had before. So we're divided by means the bottom goes on the outside. Now, when I rewrite it, I want you to notice I'm going to put it in descending order of exponent. Not 3x, just kidding about that. 3y squared minus 5y minus 2. And on the inside of my division symbol, I'm going to have 15y cubed minus 19y squared minus 30y plus 7. It is kind of important that you do it in descending order of exponent because like in the last problem, you notice that we did need to keep our columns in order. All right, so that really helped us out. So here, I'm not missing any exponents, so we can just start. We don't have to add anything in. So the first question is, how many times does 3y squared go into 15y cubed? And I'm going to shrink that a little bit so I can do a little bit of scratch work. You can say 15y cubed over 3y squared. And when you simplify this, you wind up with 5y, right? And so I'm going to put the 5y on the top. And then I multiply the 5y times each term on the outside. So 5y times 3y squared is 15y cubed. 5y times negative 5y is negative 25y squared. 5y times negative 2 is negative 10y. Again, same as before, I'm going to put a parentheses around it. The parentheses helps me make sure that I remember to distribute that negative. All right, so if your problem with long division in the past has been that you always forget to distribute that negative, the parentheses helps you remember. So 15y cubed minus 15y cubed is 0. Negative 19y squared minus negative 25y, so it's really plus positive 25y. So that is 6y squared. Negative 30y minus negative 10y is minus 20y. And I bring down the plus 7. All right, so now the question is, right, I got to repeat the process again if I can. How many times does 3y squared go into 6y squared? Because that's your first term right there. And when you simplify, you wind up with 2. You're always welcome to check my work. I want this to be accurate. Now we're going to take the 2 and multiply it times each term on the outside. So 2 times 3y squared is 6y squared. 2 times negative 5y is 2 times negative 5y is negative 10y. And 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. All right, so again, parentheses around it, hit the subtract, and 6y squared minus 6y squared is 0. Negative 20y minus 10y minus negative 10y is negative 10y. And then 7 minus negative 4 is plus 11. And now we can't do any more with this because 3y squared doesn't go into negative 10y. So this is your remainder. So you would write your final answer as 5y plus 2, which is your quotient, plus negative 10y plus 11 over 3y squared minus 5y minus 2, which again is your remainder. So if I just ask you for the quotient, I want that. If I just ask you for the remainder, I want this. If I ask you for your final answer, I would like the whole thing. All right. So now let's get into the factor and remainder theorems. These are things that you can know, and it's potentially shortcut for your work. So the remainder theorem says, suppose that P is a polynomial of degree at least 1, and C is some real number. When P of X is divided by X minus C, the remainder is P of C. So let's figure this out. All right. So I think sometimes these theorems are best explained by an example. So let's let p of x equal 2x cubed minus 5x plus 3. And I want to find p of -2 using the remainder theorem. All right. So basically what it's saying is that if I take x minus -2, right? X minus c, this is c right here from my theorem, right? So this here is c. If I take x minus c, which can be simplified to x plus 2, and I divide it by 2x cubed minus 5x plus 3, whatever the remainder is should be equal to p of -2. All right, so I'm going to ask you right now to pause the video. Now it's time to practice your long division. And when you come back, we'll go through it quickly on the back end. All right, so hopefully you did your long division. Let's see how you did. All right, so x goes into 2x cubed, 2x squared times. So that would be 2x cubed. Actually, you know what? Let's say plus 0x squared minus 5x plus 3. There we go. And then 2x squared times 2 is plus 4x squared. Subtract, I get 0, negative 4x squared. Bring down the minus 5x. Bring this up a little bit. And then I say, how many times does x go into negative 4x squared? And it's negative 4x times. So that's negative 4x squared minus 8x. And when I subtract, I get 0 here. But I do get positive 3x over here. I bring down the plus 3. And I say plus 3. So 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 2 is 6. Parentheses, subtract. I wind up with negative 3 as my remainder. All right. So now the great way to check your work is this. You can just check what is p of -2. This is not an especially long polynomial. So you can do p of -2 right here. Plug it in and see what you get. You should get -3. I definitely encourage you to check your work all the time, no matter what. So let's go on to the factor theorem. Now the factor theorem says, suppose p is a non-zero polynomial. The real number c is a 0 if you can, and only if you divide x minus c and your remainder is 0. All right, so let's see, all right, what we have. So here's the example. This is, like I said, these theorems sometimes are confusing. Best explained by an example. All right, so f of x equals x cubed plus 5x squared plus 5x squared minus 12x minus 36. And the question is x minus 3 a factor of f of x? All right, I'm going to make that a better 3. So basically the factor theorem is saying if you divide it and you get a 0 at the end, it is a factor. So if you get a 0 as a remainder, it is a factor. So, well, you know what we can do? c equals 3. So we could say, what is f of 3? This is kind of taking that remainder theorem and bringing it in. So why don't you pause the video and why don't you try to work out f of 3? And let's see if we come up with the same answer. All right, so hopefully you took the time to work out f of 3. I actually got 0. So according to the remainder theorem, our remainder should be 0, which means that we are planning on saying yes to this question. Now, what's the easiest way to check that? The easiest way to check that is to do the long division. So let's set it up. We have x minus 3, and on the inside I have x cubed plus 5x squared minus 12x minus 36. And now it's time to do some long division. So why don't you pause the video, do the long division, and when we get back, we'll check our work. All right, so how many times does x go into x cubed is x squared times. So I'll put the x squared over the x squared. So x squared times x is x cubed. X squared times negative 3 is negative 3x squared. And now I'm going to subtract. And when I subtract 5x squared minus negative 3x squared, I get positive 8x squared. I'm going to bring down my negative 12x. X goes into 8x squared, positive 8x times. So that's 8x squared minus 24x, parentheses, subtract, and I wind up with a positive 12x minus 36. And then I say x goes into 12x, positive 12 times, and I'm going to scroll up so I can write the rest. 12x minus 36, and when I subtract, I wind up with 0 as a remainder. Therefore, the answer to the question is x minus 3 a factor? The answer is yes. All right, guys, thank you for listening. This is a section that is going to take some time. You do need practice. I definitely encourage you to practice more. But thank you for listening, and I'll see you all next time. Have a good one.